You're 3 months out from the breakup, maybe 6, maybe a full year. You finally stopped checking their social media every hour. You've started sleeping through the night again. You went on a date last week and actually laughed, like really laughed. And then your phone buzzes, you look down, and there it is, their name. After all this time, after the silence that nearly destroyed you, after you convinced yourself you'd never hear from them again. Hey, I've been thinking about you. Can we talk? Your heart stops. Your hands shake. Everything you built in those months of healing suddenly feels like it's made of paper. And the worst part of you knew this was coming. Deep down, you always knew they'd come back. Here's what nobody tells you about avoidant attachment. The return isn't a question of if, it's a question of when. And more importantly, it's a question of whether you'll be ready when it happens. So, let's talk about why this happens, what's actually going on in their mind when they reach out, and exactly what you need to do when that message inevitably lands in your inbox. To understand why avoidants come back, you need to understand how their emotional processing actually works, because it's completely different from yours. When you went through the breakup, you felt everything immediately. The grief hit you like a truck. You cried, you journaled, you called your friends at 2 a.m, you processed in real time. They didn't. They couldn't. See, avoidant attachment develops as a survival mechanism. Usually in childhood, they learn that expressing emotional needs led to rejection, disappointment, or pain. So, their nervous system built a wall. Not a wall to keep you out. A wall to keep their own feelings contained. When the relationship ended, they didn't feel relief because they stopped loving you. They felt relief because the wall could finally go back up. The pressure was off. They didn't have to manage intimacy anymore. But here's where it gets interesting. That wall doesn't actually eliminate emotions. It just delays them. Think of it like emotional debt with compound interest. Every feeling they suppressed during your relationship, every vulnerable moment they shut down, every time they pulled away instead of moving closer, all of that gets stored, and eventually the bill comes due. This is what researchers call the Phantom X phenomenon. Avoidants don't process breakups in the moment. They process them months or even years later, often triggered by something seemingly random. A song, a smell, a new relationship that suddenly makes them realize what they lost. Think about this. While you were drowning in pain, they were numb. While you were healing, they were avoiding. And now that you've finally rebuilt yourself, that's precisely when their emotional dam breaks. The timing isn't coincidental, it's psychological clockwork. So, what flips the switch? What takes an avoidant from complete radio, silence to suddenly showing up at your door, metaphorically or literally? There are typically 3 triggers, and understanding them will change how you interpret their return. The first trigger is the failure of their rebound or replacement. Now, I know that's painful to hear, but many avoidants leave relationships and immediately seek something new, not because they've moved on, but because new connections don't carry emotional weight yet. New people don't know their patterns. New people don't trigger their fear of intimacy. But eventually that new relationship either gets serious enough to become threatening or it falls apart entirely. And when it does, guess whose face suddenly appears in their mind? Yours. Not because you were a backup plan, but because you were real. You saw them. You got close. And their subconscious has been cataloging that this whole time. The second trigger is personal crisis. A job loss, a health scare, a death in the family. The falling apart of something they thought was stable. Avoidants build their identity around independence and control. When life strips that away, their defense mechanisms fail. And in that raw, vulnerable state, they finally feel what they've been suppressing. They remember how safe you made them feel. Even if they couldn't admit it then, let me show you how this actually works in their mind. During the relationship, every time you offered comfort, part of them wanted to accept it, and part of them screamed danger. The danger part usually won, but the part that wanted comfort, it remembered. And when their world falls apart, that memory becomes unbearably loud. The third trigger is the most fascinating: your absence itself. There's a psychological principle called the scarcity effect. We value things more when they're unavailable. While you were present, accessible, trying to make things work, you were, in their avoidant brain, a sure thing. The moment you truly moved on, truly became unavailable, truly stopped reaching out, your value skyrocketed. This isn't manipulation advice, by the way. This is just how avoidant psychology operates. Your healing, your growth, your genuine movement forward. These don't just benefit you, they actually trigger their return. So, what do you do with this information? You recognize that their return says nothing about your worth then, and everything about their processing now. You weren't not enough during the relationship. They simply weren't capable of seeing your value until distance forced them to. Let's talk about what the actual return looks like, because it's rarely what you expect. Most people imagine some dramatic confession. They picture the avoidant showing up with flowers, tears streaming down their face, ready to promise forever. That's not how it happens. The avoidant reach out is almost always tentative, testing, careful. Remember, they're still avoidant. Their attachment style didn't magically disappear just because they miss you. So, they'll send something that gives them plausible deniability. Hey, just saw something that reminded me of you. Found this thing of yours, wanted to return it. Happy birthday, hope you're doing well. These aren't throwaway messages. These are reconnaissance missions. They're gauging whether the door is still open while leaving themselves an escape route in case it's not. Here's what most people miss about this moment. The casualness of the message is inversely proportional to how much courage it took to send it. The more offhand it seems, the more they probably agonized over it. And if you respond warmly, you'll notice the escalation pattern. That first casual text becomes a longer conversation. That conversation becomes, "We should catch up sometime." That catch-up becomes late-night messages about how things have been hard and they've been thinking about the past. This is when you'll start hearing the regret. But here's the thing about avoidant regret. It comes out sideways. They won't say, "I was wrong and I'm sorry." They'll say, "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately," or "I don't think I realized some things back then." They'll hint at growth without fully claiming their mistakes. They'll suggest they've changed without proving it. This is the moment where everything hinges, because what you do next determines whether you get pulled back into the same cycle or whether something genuinely new becomes possible. Your instinct when they return will be to welcome them back immediately. I need you to understand why that's the worst thing you can do, not for strategic reasons, but for psychological ones. When an avoidant reaches out from a place of crisis or regret, they're temporarily in a deactivated state. Their usual defenses are down. They feel the longing, the loss, the desire for connection. This is real. These feelings are genuine in that moment. But here's the psychological trap. The moment they feel secure in having you back, their avoidant defenses reactivate. It's not a choice they make consciously. It's their nervous system doing what it's always done. Proximity triggers protection, safety triggers shutdown. So, if you immediately open your arms and take them back, you'll get maybe a few weeks, sometimes just a few days, of that connected, vulnerable version of them. And then they'll start pulling away again, and you'll be devastated again. And the cycle continues. Think about this carefully. Your warmth and availability is what allowed them to feel safe enough to leave in the first place. Recreating that exact dynamic guarantees the exact same outcome. So, what do? You respond, but you don't rescue. You engage, but you don't collapse your boundaries. You express that you're open to talking, but you don't drop everything to accommodate them. You ask questions instead of offering reassurance. This isn't game playing. This is requiring them to actually show up differently, not just feel differently in a temporary moment of vulnerability. Now, here's where I need to offer some nuance, because not every avoidant return is destined for failure. People can change. Attachment styles can become more secure over time. The question is, How do you tell the difference between someone who's genuinely grown and someone who's just temporarily uncomfortable? Real change in an avoidant shows up in specific ways. First, they take ownership without defensiveness. They don't just say, "I know I wasn't perfect." They name their specific patterns. "I shut down when you needed me. I created distance when things got serious. I made you feel like wanting closeness was a burden." Vague acknowledgement is easy. Specific accountability is evidence. Second, they've done work outside of you. Therapy, books, genuine self-reflection that happened whether or not you were ever going to take them back. Someone who only explores their attachment issues as a means to get you back hasn't actually changed. They've just found a new strategy. Third, and this is the big one, they tolerate your skepticism. A changed avoidant understands that trust needs to be rebuilt. They don't get frustrated when you're cautious. They don't push for immediate commitment. They don't guilt you for protecting yourself. They recognize that your walls exist because of their actions, and they're willing to be patient while you verify their growth. Let that sink in. The avoidant who returns and immediately pressures you for resolution is telling you everything you need to know. They want the relief of having you back more than they want to do the work of earning you back. There's a moment coming that no one can prepare you for. It'll happen after a long conversation, maybe after you've seen each other in person, maybe after they've said things you always needed to hear. There will be a moment where you have to decide, do I let them back in or not? And here's the truth that makes this so complicated. There's no objectively right answer. Some couples do successfully reconcile after an avoidant partner does genuine work. They build something stronger than before because both people now understand the patterns they're working against. They create new dynamics intentionally instead of falling into old ones blindly. But other times, taking them back is just self-abandonment disguised as love. You forgive because you're tired of grieving. You accept their return because being wanted feels better than being alone. You convince yourself things are different when really you're just replaying the same story with slightly better dialogue. So, here's the question you need to ask yourself, and I need you to be brutally honest. Are you considering taking them back because they have demonstrated real change, or because you want the version of them you always hoped they could be? Those are two very different things. One is based on evidence, the other is based on potential. And relationships built on potential are relationships built on sand. Let's assume you've decided to at least explore reconciliation. You've seen evidence of change. You've had conversations that felt different. You're cautiously optimistic. What comes next matters more than everything before it. You need to establish different dynamics from day one. This isn't about punishment or making them earn your love through suffering. This is about not recreating the conditions that led to the original breakdown. That means you express your needs clearly and early. Before, you might have softened your requests. You might have asked for less than you wanted because you sensed their discomfort with intimacy. Not this time. This time, you state what you need and you watch what happens. Not what they say in response, what they do. That means you maintain your own life. The friendships you strengthened during your healing, the hobbies you discovered, the independence you built. These aren't bargaining chips to give up once they return. These are the foundation of a healthier you, and they stay intact, whether the relationship works out or not. And that means you stay alert to old patterns without becoming paranoid. There's a difference between hypervigilance and healthy awareness. You're not looking for reasons to leave. You're just not ignoring warning signs anymore. Here's what I want you to walk away understanding. The avoidant in your life will likely come back. Maybe not today, maybe not next month, but at some point, when life gets hard, when their defenses fail, when they finally feel what they've been running from, they'll reach for you. And when that happens, you get to choose, not them, you. You're not required to forgive just because they finally feel remorse. You're not obligated to try again just because they're ready now. Your healing, your peace, your forward momentum, that's matter regardless of their timeline. But if you do choose to let them back in, do it with clear eyes. Do it having required evidence, not just promises. Do it maintaining the self you became in their absence. Because the goal was never to get them back. The goal was always to build a life where you're okay either way. And if you've done that, if you've genuinely arrived at a place where their return is an option but not a need, then whatever you decide, you'll decide it from power instead of desperation. That's the real transformation here. Not whether they come back, but who you are when they do. And that's entirely up to you.